if a man is in a bar and there's a woman in there who got in because she had a fake ID and he assumes she's of age because she's in a bar, and she turns out to be 15 years old with a fake ID, while that's illegal, that doesn't make him a complete scumbag because he wasn't there looking for underage people. Sure. But in the Epstein case, these people were specifically looking for underage people. So to give the sort of rationale, like there's a difference between 5 and 15. Well, yes, there is. But that lack of consent part is still the same. And her like just somehow downplaying that is completely disgusting and not okay based on that there is gross, and shame on her. Not that I ever liked Megyn Kelly anyway, but just it's disgusting.
Colin, please check your phone. I think that the distinction between somebody who is prepubescent versus not, I think is a big difference.
Only when the person, the John, if you will, is not aware that they're being with someone underage.
That's true.
If you know you're being with someone underage, that's part of the thrill for you. That's your thing. You're getting off on the fact that somebody is underage, unless it's like what I said, where you're in a bar, someone had a fake ID. And I've seen those cases, and statutory rape is there. It doesn't matter whether they knew or didn't know, but it matters in terms of morality, right? It doesn't matter as far as legality, but it matters as far as morality. And I think that's what she's missing. That's fine. Then that's your age of consent.
The age of consent in
here
Kentucky,
it is not that.
That's not true. Well, in Kentucky, I believe, is the youngest of all the states. I think the age of consent, if anybody can quote me, or if I'm misquoting here, I believe Kentucky is the youngest, and Kentucky is 15.
Well,
but for the most,
I don't think any of the Epstein cases are in Kentucky. Okay.
No, for the most part, the age of consent in the United States varies on a short list of 16 in several states, 17 in most states, and 18 in a number of states, including Florida and I believe New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. But again,
and let me be clear, I disagree with all of that entirely. Sure. I think that we as a society we need to decide what is an adult. And then you have whatever that age is, whether it's 18, whether it's 21, whatever you decide, that is when you are able to do adult activities like voting, drinking, all of the things that should be adult activities. And that's the age that we decide it is. Because in all reality, our brains are not fully developed until we're like 25, 26.
That's
so
true.
We're not going based on anything that is scientific other than just what we think. So if we're going to go by that, I don't know, because to me, it's disgusting to think that 15-year-olds legally can consent.
Well, listen, I mean, what country do we live in? Do not forget the people that write the laws and the people who want to see certain laws be put into place. Heck, there are probably people who put laws in place because there was probably a 50-year-old political representative who was fucking a 14-year-old and had to do something to adjust the law so that they didn't get themselves hung. There's just different things. But here's what Megyn Kelly said with Batya-Ungar Sargon.
She's a total piece of crap, that one.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a shit-lib Zion-Nazi who tries to play herself off like she's a Wokey at the same time. It's always funny to watch.
And she's got her big Jewish star around her neck. Yeah.
I'm sure she does.
For Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls.
How is that?
And
that's
I
not
realized,
barely legal. That's illegal unless you're in Kentucky. And I want to address, Chanel, the problem is that 15-year-olds are sexually active. Absolutely. And I know that 15-year-olds, and I was said 15-year-old at one point myself, and I know that I would have said, oh, yes, but I consent. Too bad it doesn't work that way. So while they might be sexually active, if an adult wants to participate in sex with said child, then that adult is going to be liable for statutory rape and should be. Now, if said 15-year-old wants to have sex with a 16-year-old, that's the kind of shit that, what are you going to do? but adults need to be adults.
Yeah, and Megyn Kelly, of course, is somebody who I have said, like a lot of other people in politics, is a complete chameleon. She always has been. She is an attorney, a very rough and tough and good attorney by trade, but that's how she's become a very wealthy lady. You know, she was on Fox News, got canned, was on NBC, got canned, but she always managed to get a very large payday, and she's always maintained relationships with top upper echelon type people. And when she makes statements like this, it isn't because that's what she truly believes in her heart of hearts, probably not. It's what is good for her career. That is what is at stake here. For a lot of people, Megyn, unlike, let's say, Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, is going to still likely have a career once this is all over. And so in this case, she is making a statement that I think she slipped up on when she said, age of consent, and then she
said barely legal.
Barely legal.
Like
yeah,
15. No, yeah. Barely legal
would be 18.
Exactly.
Or 19. You're still a teen. But yes.
Right. That's barely legal, yeah. Megyn.
In her mind, it's like, oh, I said it wrong, because again, there's a reason why she's speaking like this. There are people that she is probably close to that need her to talk like this, that need her to soften the blow, because perhaps the Epstein files are going to be released. And
they've been released.
Well,
we've seen them.
We've seen some of it. There's probably more that we're not seeing.
Okay.
All I'm saying is this is a protection racket, and it pays very well. Megyn, of all people, would know that.
This is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal too.
No. The point, Megyn, should be maybe they don't look legal, but they are legal. And that would be one thing. Also gross and skeevy. I find it disgusting that grown men find that schoolgirl look, even on a legal age person, that they find that appealing. I find it skeevy and gross. That's me. But for her to say that somehow it's okay if they're not legal, but look it. No. Does anybody know, does she have kids?
Yes.
Do you know Megyn Kelly has kids?
She has 3, and one of them's a teenage daughter.
Oh, good God, woman. Like, you are horrible.
A passerby. And that is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn. Now they call it child sexual abuse material on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest. I don't really trust Pam Bondi's word on the Epstein matters anymore.
Well, that's what eventually got them to make a comment, is that, oh, we can dump on Pam Bondi because she's just the easiest person to crap on. But notice how Batya did not interrupt her once when referring to 15 years old being barely legal. I mean, that's a pretty big slip of the tongue, if you ask me.
It's all gross. I feel bad for her kids. This is somebody who, I don't know. That's not a whole lot of maternal instinct. And I am not the most maternal of people, but children are children.
Well,
children are children.
Yes, but then again, you raised 2 boys. You didn't raise a boy and a girl or 2 girls.
I tell you what, if I had a girl, I'd probably be even fiercer. So if anything, if she has a daughter and I do have 2 boys, and the fact that I get this and she doesn't, that's the opposite of what you're sort of like thinking would be my bias.
Well, as I said, I don't necessarily believe that what she's saying is what she actually thinks. I think she's saying it because she has a career, a very lucrative career, and she is going to do everything in her power to protect it, because that's what matters most to her. Just like a lot of other people who are doing what we're doing. The money and the career is of first and foremost their primary concern. And so she is going to choose her words very carefully because of the people that she may be associated with. Hence why Batya also did not push back on her when she said what she said. So,
no, because Megyn Kelly is a corporate whore.
Correct.
And her corporate donors are probably part of this seemingly global sex trafficking, underage ring. And yes, it's boys and girls. Absolutely. It's boys and girls. Let's not we don't talk about it as much, but it is.
Yes. And I also think that there's another layer to this, but let's finish this out and I'll share my thoughts.
Yeah. So I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. You can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever.
Yes, there is, Megyn. Technically, in order for it to be considered pedophilia, it does need to be somebody prepubescent. Yes, that's true. That's very scientific of you, you dumb cunt. The point is that these are children being trafficked. And the fact that somebody gets in it at 13 as opposed to 8, and the fact that she's sitting there like, what kind of random numbers? So it doesn't mean 8 or 13 to you. Is that your cutoff, Megyn? Is it like 13 and older is okay because there's a teen in the word? Like, seriously.
When I was a teenager and I started watching pornography, there was one thing that I noticed that I found extremely disturbing, particularly the type of pornography that was coming out. And this is in the late 90s. I can't even imagine how much worse it is now.
Well, a lot of it's AI now, too.
You had the constant need for every single type of modern day porn to be relatable to this idea that these women in question that were being shown were basically kids or very young. And that covered everything. It wasn't just the shaving of the pubic region. It was the pigtails in the hair, getting them to put braces on their teeth, get them to get giggly and talk and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, there are people that get off on this?
Yes, clearly.
Pornography that was made back in the 70s and 80s, some of it had high production value. Women were treated with a lot more respect. There was just a different way that the business operated. That's not to say it wasn't sleazy and disgusting in so many ways, but there is no question that over time it evolved and it got so much more misogynistic, violent.
Yes.
Deprecating in every possible way. And then you add in this factor of we're pedorasses, we're sexual abusers, so we want to make this acceptable behavior. How do we do that? Well, let's make movies about it and we'll say that it's acceptable. Incest is acceptable. Child rape is acceptable. They really wanted it, so naturally we're going to push it. That's how this works. And it's been working that way for a very long time. So to say that we could see this coming would be an understatement. We all saw it.
Of course.
And I think the people that typically are depraved, the most depraved, are usually people, especially men. There's depraved women out there, don't get me wrong. There absolutely is. However, there are a lot of men out there that end up falling into these types of fetishes, trademarks, things of that nature.
It's called an addiction.
Addiction.
They're addicts. You're talking about people that are addicts, but they're like porn addicts.
But I also think that I think being an introvert plays a role in that. I think technology has led more and more to that type of behavior as a result of not, having, we'll just say, face-to-face communication, networking, etc. But then you also factor in there are people, particularly men, that do not know how to communicate with the opposite sex. And as a result, they become incels. And then they become deranged and depraved. And that's where this type of world comes from. Violence against women, especially trafficking, abuse, anything of that nature, it's not hard to see where it comes from. You have the people that are effed up in the head and enjoy that stuff. And then you also have the powers that be that either like it themselves or they know they can make money from it. And that's all that it's about. And that's why when Megyn said what she said, barely legal 15, I said, in what universe is 15 barely legal? In the United States, it's legal in one state. And even then, for all the good things you hear about Kentucky, it's still a state where you legally can marry your first cousin. So
Florida's got some weird shit on its books too, so don't go there.
Florida, for all the things you could say bad about Florida, Florida's age of consent in Florida is 18.
You're right, but in Florida, a man can legally marry his mother. So there's that.
Is that true?
Yes, and that's one of the icebreakers that Barbary used when I did the Barbary course to study for the Florida bar. So in the family law segment, that was one of the icebreaker things that the Barbary instructor used. So this was back in 2003. So unless that ancient thing has been taken off the books since, which is possible if somebody comes in and says, oh, that's not there anymore. Yes, Florida is the only state in the nation where somebody could legally marry their mother. That was there. Anyhow.
Yes. And again, I do think that, and Megyn finished with, there is a distinction without a difference. I don't agree. I do think that there is a difference between pre and post-pubescent. I don't think anybody would argue that point. However, you are not going to tell me that just because a girl is fully developed at 13, 14 years old, that she knows the way of the world and should be interacting with a 25-year-old man, that's considered proper discourse. It's not.